So, Britt, really, how do you rank Kyler, Wilson, Deshaun, Prescott?
Well, to me,
We are back with our Fantasy and Chill 101, counting down the top 101 fantasy football players for the 2020 football season. Number 55 on our countdown is our quarterback of our Houston Texans. All of us, that's right. Deshaun Watson. He is our fourth ranked quarterback. Last year, he finished as QB number four. A few of his stats last year, he had 3,852 passing yards, 26 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions. Also added 82 carries for 413 yards and 7 touchdowns. He scored 327.48 fantasy points, an average of 21.8 points per game. All right, so the big offseason news with the Texans this year has been the loss of their all-pro wide receiver, Deshaun's top target, DeAndre Hopkins. So we know that that's kind of been I don't know if it's been a safety blanket per se, but he's always had Hopkins kind of to lean on there. He knows that he can just throw it up to him. But he does have a stat where he averages 9.2 yards per attempt to other receivers. That's mostly because his other receivers have usually been deep threats. And we've talked about the guys he has there this year. They're all speed, they're all deep threats. So he will be throwing the ball, airing it out deep to them. He has had top fantasy production ever since he's been in the league. In 2017, before he tore his ACL, he was QB number one. He came in halfway through
monster.
week one, got hurt week 6 or 7. But during that stretch, he was QB number one. Both of the last 2 seasons, he finished as QB number four. So he's been a top 5 fantasy QB his entire time in the league. And then he has exactly what you're looking for in a fantasy quarterback. He's got that high rushing floor. Over the last 2 seasons, he has ranked top 4 quarterbacks in rushing attempts, rushing yards, and rushing touchdowns. He's kind of the perfect little fantasy quarterback that you want.
He last year he was, or was it just me? He was a little inconsistent. He had his very good games, and then he had very mediocre games,
I
if
think that's
not
always
bad
been
games.
his knock against him. Maybe not so much from a fantasy standpoint, but he was talking about like a quarterback like trying to win games in the NFL. He has been a little inconsistent in his career.
Yeah, and I mean, last year he did not play in one game. I guess it says 15 games played, but he actually got sacked about 18 times less last year, but threw three more picks. Didn't have as many passing yards, but did have 7 rushing touchdowns. So he
He
did have
sat
his.
out sat out that last game versus the Titans. He didn't play. We were resting him for the playoffs.
Okay. Now, let's get to the elephant in the room. He does not have Hopkins.
Right.
No.
I mean, Fuller, Stills, Brandon Cooks, that's a solid group there, but you
Randall
don't have
Cobb.
not
Randall
never mind.
Cobb.
I don't really care about him. But he doesn't that's the only thing that scares me because the Texans don't have a good tight end. And he's not going to have that guy 3rd and 4, 3rd and 6. You know what I'm saying? Who he can because like who are you going to throw it to there? You going to go deep every time with Cooks and Stills and Fuller? No, you need that intermediate guy, and that's the only thing that scares me. But David Johnson is there, and he could be his saving grace.
I was gonna say that they might not have a stud tight end. Their tight ends are like they're okay. Darren Fells, Jordan Akins, like they can go out there and catch the ball. But what he does have is both of the running backs that are going to be on the field are very good receiving backs in David Johnson and Duke Johnson. So he
They are,
will
but
have guys that are very capable of getting those short, like when he needs 1 to 5 yards for maybe a big third
He's
down.
never historically thrown to running backs. He's had Lamar Miller, never threw it to him. I complain about it, I think, every Sunday when we watch the games, why they
I
don't
don't
run
think
more
he.
screens.
Yeah, that's
And
true.
he had Duke Johnson last year. We traded a third round pick for Duke Johnson. They traded a third round pick for Duke Johnson. How many times did we see Duke Johnson catch the ball?
Yeah,
Rarely
I
ever.
don't.
The biggest play last year in the playoffs was him dumping off to Taiwan Jones for like a 40-yard play to win the Bills game.
Who?
Running back,
Taiwan.
Taiwan
Yeah,
Jones.
I know who it is, but I'm saying who.
Just saying,
He
you talk
doesn't look.
about him not having a reliable tight end. The Texans tight ends
It's
are
not
the
even
running
that.
backs going out
It's
for pass.
It's not having a stud wide receiver. You look at any quarterback going around him or even close to him, they all have better wide receiving cores. Even Josh Allen has Stephon Diggs and Josh Brown now.
Brandon
Kyler
Cooks is a
Murray's
little
got
underrated.
Hopkins. Okay, but Yeah, he is a little bit, I guess. But like Russell Wilson, you have DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Matt Ryan, you got Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, Drew Brees, you got Michael Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders, Jared Cook. Like, I feel like I don't know. I feel like that could be his downfall this year, and he has a tough schedule. But
I just
you compare any other quarterback to him in that range, and they just have, like Patrick Mahomes has weapons coming out of his ass, like
Well,
Lamar
Patrick
Jackson.
Mahomes is going like 2 rounds
No, no, no,
earlier, 3 rounds
no.
earlier.
I
You should be
understand
comparing
that,
him
but
to Dak, Russell, and Kyler. Which,
okay,
listen, I
Dak
was gonna
has better wide receivers by
I was
far.
I was gonna come in and say that I might actually have Deshaun ranked below all three of those guys.
Hmm. I think I agree with you.
I think y'all are underrating the Texans receiving core as a whole.
No, they're all the
Just
same guy though.
It is. It's true. Exactly what I was pointing out. And their schedule is not easy at all. Their first four games at Kansas City, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Minnesota, Jacksonville, Tennessee, Green Bay to round it out. Like, I don't know. That's a very tough first 4 or 5 games.
it is. Deshaun has been one to step up in tough games and produce. He's had some of
True.
his biggest games in the versus tough opponents.
And I mean, it's his team without a question, right? Like JJ
Yeah,
Watt's kind of
it's
stepped
gonna
back. Hopkins is off the team. Like it's his team now.
Let me,
everything runs through Deshaun.
let me
Yes.
ask y'all this. Well, first of
Well, Bill
all,
O'Brien.
we've
He's yeah.
we never seen Deshaun without Hopkins, but we also have seen Deshaun when Will Fuller's healthy, and that offense is completely different. It's a whole lot better when Will Fuller's healthy. But let me ask you this question: would y'all agree that Deshaun Watson might be the most risky quarterback out of Prescott, Wilson, and Kyler?
Out
He
of
could.
those four,
Or
he
He
might
does have
be.
he does have a lower floor than those guys. I will agree with that. I think he is. Yes, I agree.
Are you just basing this off of he doesn't have the top caliber weapon that those other three have?
You have to have that though,
And we don't know what the offense is going to be without Hopkins.
unless you're Lamar Jackson. Yeah, and Lamar Jackson has a stable behind him too. Like, and he has what's the tight end's name? Fuck, Mark Andrews. Like,
Well,
I
we're
don't
not talking
know.
about Lamar Jackson.
No, no, no. I'm just saying, like, he has so many weapons. Like, every other quarterback around there has so many weapons compared to
Yeah, yeah.
Deshaun Watson, who has a bunch of,
Speed guys.
yeah, above average, I guess, but nobody even close to being top 10.
Look, guys, if there's one thing we can count on, Bill O'Brien has used this time shut away in quarantine. He has developed a high-powered offense to use all of his weapons to get the most possible output out of Deshaun Watson.
Okay, hold on.
Even you couldn't
Let's
even
go.
finish that sentence without laughing.
Yeah, you're exactly right.
Go,
Can,
back
can I
back
can
to
I
this question real
sidebar this
quick.
real quick?
No,
Can I
just let me.
sidebar this real
No,
quick?
no, no, you can't. Let me ask you this.
Okay.
Just real quick. How do y'all rank those four quarterbacks? I guess we already know how Ryan's going to rank them, or at least. So, Britt, really, how do you rank Kyler, Wilson, Deshaun, Prescott?
Well, to me, Wilson has to be up there, number one, and then I would probably go. Kyler just hasn't shown it to me. I'd probably go Dak, and then maybe Deshaun Watson ahead of Kyler just a little bit. That's probably what I would do.
Okay.
Yeah, I have Kyler first by a decent amount. I think that he's taken a huge step up. The offense is going to be high powered this year, and I do have
You want to
Deshaun
know
ahead
why?
of Dak and Russell, but
Because
let's not. What?
I was going to say Kyler's number one because they have DeAndre.
Oh yeah, that doesn't hurt.
Go
No.
ahead.
I have Deshaun ahead of Dak and Russell, the last two guys we did, but
Yeah.
let's keep in mind I have them one
Yeah.
apart from
Really
each other.
close.
It's not like they're basically the same guys.
All right, go ahead and sidebar, Britt.
Well, I
Since
was
we're in
just
law
gonna say,
school now.
like, what is the Texans' record after their first 6 games? Well, let's go 7 games. So at Kansas City, that's a loss, right?
I don't think we really care
Baltimore
what
at
their
home.
record is, though.
Well, I know, but I'm just saying, like, how good is this team actually gonna be?
They're
Like,
going to be
with who
terrible.
they're having to face, they're probably gonna
They'll
be.
be 9-7.
As always. Like their
I
defense
think.
is going to be a lot worse. So if anything, that's going to benefit Watson. He's going to have to throw the ball more. I think he's going to run the ball more. He kind of stepped back a little bit last year. He dropped
Do
like.
you think the defense is going to be a lot worse?
Yeah,
I mean, who did
I
they
just.
add?
Who did they get rid of?
DJ Reader. But
They signed a safety. They signed a corner.
J.J. Watt's another year older.
Yep.
Zach Cunningham is just getting better. Justin Reed's
Our
getting
cornerbacks,
better.
what did we really do with our cornerbacks?
I don't know. They sucked in. So.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not like they got worse.
They
got rid of Jonathan Joseph. I mean, he was slow.
It's not going to be better.
I don't think how you said it multiple videos though, that the defense is going to be bad or worse than I don't think they're going to be worse than last year. They just might not be a top group, but I don't think they're going to be terrible.
They're not going to be better than last year.
I don't know. I guess we'll see.
They're either going to be equal or worse than last year. And the offense is going to be more ridden on Deshaun's back, which is a good thing if you draft Deshaun.
One more thing that I want to bring up that Britt mentioned, and the first thing he said is that the offensive line got sacked less. The offensive line has gotten better each year.
I agree with that.
Actually, this is the first year in a while that they've gone into where the offensive line is going to be vastly improved. They have Laramie Tunsil another year in the system.
Titus
Howard looked good before he got hurt last year. They have sharp like Nick Martin. Oh, Nick Martin's not that great, but I'm saying they have a solid front. This is the first year in so many years where they haven't lost a starter on the line. It's gonna be the same starters as last year. So
I agree with that.
I mean, Deshaun Watson has the potential to be the best fantasy player on the Texans by far. I mean, maybe David Johnson is close, but I'm just not looking to this team to be scoring a lot of points in all these matchups.
I don't know.
I think they're gonna have to, but Ryan will disagree with that. He seems to Texans defense is top 5. Go ahead and finish.
Go ahead and wrap this up. We've gone on long enough on this. But Deshaun Watson, our 4th ranked quarterback, I don't have the number in front of me
55.
because I was looking at my phone. 55 overall.
55.
Yeah.